Okay, so I've got the ISE NIN right here. I've been playing around with the ARP mode a bit. It's just set to its internal clock, but it can easily clock with any other external sync via USB. In fact, it's rigged up to my mobile rig right now, running in Logic Pro. So typically, because ARPs can literally just kind of give you repetition fatigue, you need to do something with it, right? Generally speaking, you want to do something with the filter, Let me bypass that. Right, so you do something with the filter, which you typically might do in a digital audio workstation. But what's cool is that when you interact with a hardware synth like this, and honestly, it doesn't have to be like the ISE NIN really, right? It can be kind of like any hardware synth. But I found this type of discovery usually happens more often with hardware setups than software plugins. There's just more like happy accidents with hardware from my experience. So anyway, because the harp is so repetitive, you gravitate towards anything that'll like morph it over time to just kind of like give it some kind of interest. The one thing that I found really delightful and sort of surprising and kind of forgot about was automating the decay and the sustain together, or separate, but just kind of moving it up and down. As the ARP continues, right? Not just the filter, which kind of cuts off the EQ frequency, but actually the shape of it. Like just being more mindful of the envelope and the shape of the tone. Again, this is nothing new, but I just don't do this normally, or just kind of forgot about it. I happen to simply do this because, well, the envelope sliders are like just right there, and I happen to kind of move it, and I liked it, And this type of expression or articulation, shaping of a tone is something that makes instruments sound more human, more expressive. Again, nothing new, but I was struck by how cool it was. And I just had this thought like, man, I should just remember to do this more often in my music, affect the sustain envelope of plucked notes to create interest, and just like not rely on filters as much as I've been doing. Creating tension and resolution just by the shape of the envelope, right? Or just use them both. So I was playing around with cross modulation, which always tends to go a little crazy. And let's just say someone walked in and heard this and commented like, "What's with the noise? Did you break it?" I was like, "Does this sound broken?" I mean, that's the kind of range you have with an instrument like this. You can make it silky smooth. Or just like super angry and aggressive. And that's the type of expressive like immediacy and tactile like muscle memory that I enjoy so much with hardware instruments, as much as probably you guys already know this. And you can sort of learn to do this manually and like become a performer, or you can take these expressive ideas to the desktop and just more surgically automate them and integrate them into your music. So this at first was going to be kind of a review of the ISE NIN, but honestly, I I'd much rather just do some kind of a demo of the instrument, just show you how I'm using the instrument right now. And which is why I did this whole ARP thing at the beginning of this video. But right off the bat, the ISE NIN, this instrument, like all great musical instruments, it's not for everyone. You wouldn't recommend a violin or a trumpet to just anyone. The instrument has to speak to you, and you've got to want to learn and take the time to invest some time into it. For me, I have a special connection with the Jupiter 8 from my youth, and to own such a vintage unit in 2023 is not practical. Instead, the ISE NIN spoke to me very specifically, and it delivered for me on pretty much all fronts. Sweet analog voices and subtle but not so subtle tones are literally, they're very musical to my ears. But unless you really want to dig deep into it, and you just absolutely have to have this type of analog sound in this specific nostalgic layout, that's sort of arguably the next best thing to the original, possibly even superior in some sense. I can't imagine why you would invest in something like the ISE NIN that costs nearly $4,500 US. I mean, from software emulations to budget synths like Novation's Peak or Hydrosynth, they might just be plenty to satisfy most of us. But hey, if you have to have it, you can. To be honest, I was hoping that this thing would be heavier, a bit more weighty. I mean, it's fine. I'm just curious, why we equate weight with quality, but we do generally. They could have used steel instead of aluminum, which would have made it heavier, but not necessarily contribute to anything in terms of the quality of the sound. If anything, it would have been sort of nice though to have this be just a little more weighty and meaty so that it could sit nice and solid. I mean, it's not flimsy, but it's light. The ISE NIN is, again, very similar to their other product that I own, which is the CS80 clone, the Decker's Dream, which is also by Black Corporation. And they're also a bit light. Again, it's not flimsy, it's well made, but it's a little on the light side in terms of the weight. I wish the OLED screen here was a little bigger. I mean, they're so stingy with, I don't know what the costs of these things are, but they were so stingy with this little tiny screen for such an instrument at this price point. Now, I know these things are built well, and the Black Corporation company has proven to be a trustworthy brand so far. It's costly to build these types of instruments, and I think as a smaller boutique-ish company, which is foremost, very time-consuming with hand soldering work and expensive analog components these days, not to mention the tuning and calibration it takes to probably get all this working. But everything else is fine. The sliders, the buttons. To me, the ISE NIN sounds as good as I can remember the Jupiter 8 sounding. There's a great video by Alex Ball, which did a direct comparison of the ISE NIN and the venerable original Jupiter 8. If you're interested, spoiler alert, the ISE NIN is impressive. Well, thank you guys again for watching and supporting this channel. Much appreciated. Feel free to leave a comment below as well, and we can discuss all things in terms of ISE NIN or hardware synths in general. Just love getting that dialogue going with this community. That's probably one of my favorite parts of doing these kinds of videos, is just talking to you guys. So leave a comment, and I will see you guys next time.